In a fit of breaking news, you guys wouldn't believe this, but Joel Embiid is doubtful for today's game. Welcome to Fantasy NBA Today podcast, the sports ethos presentation hosted by yours truly, Aaron Bruski, and me, myself, and I. No FSWA Hall of Famer Steve Dr. A. Alexander, no inventor of fantasy basketball Rick Kamla, and that's because it's Monday morning, about 9:40 Pacific time, 12:40 Eastern time, a little bit behind, but I'll blame the kiddo. He was sick today or last night. He kept me up all night. Shame on you, kid. I got a show in the morning. But no, we're live on YouTube only today, trying a few things. Whatever creatures are over there in the X algorithm are doing some funky stuff. So we need to try some new things over here. So we're going live on YouTube. Also, get into our Discord. The link is there, right there in the chat. That way you can get some questions answered. We have some nice subscriber benefits in there. It's a good time just in general. As for the show itself, no schedule changes per se. We're still doing 2 episodes per day. We're still doing Ethos After Dark at night, Mondays, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursday with the aforementioned Steve and Rick. And then we will be live on some form of a platform, YouTube, Twitter, whatever the name of the platform is. It's going to be Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And special shows in there, usually on slow nights. We'll try to put some special shows in there where we'll look at things from a broader perspective. And then weekend coverage, dynasty coverage with Mark Camaro, Panda, whoever might float through the office. So we got a lot of ground to cover today. We got 30 teams to go back in time on. It was a fun weekend. I hope you guys had a great weekend and just tons of basketball stuff going on. I really love this time of year because the results are just kicking, and there's just a lot to be gained from looking at them. There's still a lot of season left, so all the moves that you're making, the waiver wire moves, holy moly, and the fab leagues that I play in, the action was flying. Usually there's probably about like 8 to 10 players picked up. It felt like there were 20 players in each league picked up, so just a lot of action in fantasy leagues. So let's get right to it and say hello. Bet Online. Hello, guys. You guys are the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, Bet Online provides you with all the action, the ability to watch the games as they happen with the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, college basketball, NHL to UFC and MMA. Head to Bet Online today to get on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. Bet Online, the game starts here. One of the downsides of hosting a show by yourself is I just get to stare at this cup of coffee and I don't really get to drink it because we have too much to cover. So let's get right into these games here. We got Phoenix at Minnesota yesterday. This was the morning game. I got to watch quite a bit of this game. Lots of fun stuff. Anthony Edwards did not flip anybody off in this game, but he did get fined for that. And I was kind of wondering if he would get fined. I watched that in the Kings game. I heard a groan from the crowd, and then I thought I saw a middle finger. I rewound, saw the middle finger, and I was like, I think he's going to get away with that. And I was like, I won't even tweet that. I don't want to see somebody get in trouble over anything. And he got it. So then I tweeted it. As for the game itself, Booker by himself, 44 points. Kevin Durant out. Bradley Beal out. So none of that should be too surprising. He really was taking the ball, looking off teammates, doing that whole thing. And, I guess more power to you. You guys know that the one that I was watching was Grayson Allen. It's really weird. He had a good game, 18 points, 4 threes, 5 boards. He's got 8 3-pointers in his last 2 games. I'm just sitting there nitpicking the crap out of him. He is definitely 25 pounds heavier than last season. I'm pretty sure it's muscle. I'm not sure it was a good idea for him to do this. The shot looks fine. He just looks slower on defense. And then offensively, they did go to him quite a bit. So we did get a little bit of last year's Grayson Allen, but with this particular configuration, there wasn't a lot of finishers on the court, so he didn't get that across-the-board bump with the assists that we saw last season, and then no defensive stats. So it's a good time to hang on to Grayson Allen. I'm glad I hung on to him through all that mess because they're already dinged up in Phoenix, and the more they're dinged up, the more he'll play. But I do think that the player to watch to see if Grayson Allen can have something of something like last year's season would be if Tyus Jones has something to happen to him, because there's too many ball handlers. And Tyus Jones, with his 11 assists in this game, 13 points for him, 3 steals, probably his best game of recent memory. That, unless something happens to Tyus Jones, it's going to be maybe more like a top 100, 125 version of Grayson Allen. But this team can fall apart real quick. So I'm not fading him. I'm not dropping him. I think he's probably available in a lot of leagues too. So if you're looking for 125, for sure. Grayson Allen's your guy. And then there's obviously upside after that if he can get whatever going like last season. Elsewhere in their rotation, Nurkic and Plumlee started together. This sounded experimental or just at least matchup based with Rudy Gobert. Nurkic only played 14 minutes. I think that might just be an injury thing. Plumlee, 6 points, 8 boards, 4 assists, 1 steal. Somewhat productive if you're in a deeper league. So if you're desperate for a center, give him a look. I can't tell you how long this is going to last. It'll probably last as long as 2 of the 3 big 3 are out. And then after that, it's probably going to get a little bit dicey. Nobody else down rotation is really catching my eye. I mean, Royce O'Neal is what he is. We already know this. Okogie fell back, 6 points, 2 boards, 1 steal in 16 minutes, and that's it. Iguodaro, 11 points, not much else, 26 minutes. I don't think you're looking there for anything even in the short term on that side of the line. Ryan Dunn, quiet again, hasn't really been a thing as it looked like he might be in the preseason. With Minnesota, Julius Randle had the big shot to win it, 35, 4, 7, and 1, 5 threes, 8 and 9 from the foul line. I mean, he's going to have these good games. It's just a question of how many good games versus how many bad games. And what does it do to this team overall? They're 8 and 6. They probably need 20 games at least to figure it out with Randall and Edwards and just everybody kind of trying to fit in around these guys. So those are the losers. It's the guys around them. I mean, Edwards himself, he had a decent enough line here, not even worth mentioning, just sort of a standard line, but his free throw shooting has kept him lower than fantasy GMs would like by a lot. You know, he's bringing back like 3rd or 4th round value because of the foul shooting and probably because of the Julius Randle stuff. So be patient. Nobody's selling on Ant anytime soon. In fact, if anything, it's a easy buy low. Dante DiVincenzo, 15 and 3, 5 threes. It's not good, but it's not bad either. He should not be dropped. This will be a symptom of the Randall Edwards cogs figuring it out once they get things figured out or something else happens. Dante DiVincenzo has more than enough skill to make it work. Naz Reid a little bit down in this one, but if anything, just keep buying low on Naz Reid because he's actually been more productive than it has seemed in the box score. We'll keep it moving. We're going to head on over to the Pacers and Heat. The Pacers won this one 119 to 110. The Heat side of the line, obviously Jimmy Butler's out, so Tyler Hero, he's eaten 28, 4 and 4 with 7 threes. Nice foul shooting, 5 of 5 there. He's bringing back top 20 value right now. So there's ever a sell high moment for Tyler Hero. It's right now. Is he going to be good this season? Yes. Is he going to take a step forward this season? Yes. Is he going to get hurt? We don't know. And he's due for a season where he plays 70 or more games. But again, the history would suggest that that's not very likely. But right now, he's the guy that's eating. Bam Adebayo has been subsisting without Jimmy Butler on the floor. I don't know that he's above or below expectations, actually doing fairly good right now. But he's just sort of chugging along. And then Duncan Robinson with his 20 points, 4 boards, 4 assists, 5 threes. He got it cooking, and it's the timing's not great because he's going to get Jimmy Butler back probably tonight, if I had to guess. So that will knock him down a peg or 3. Nikola Jovic hasn't been productive at all this season, but he's gotten minutes, and it feels like they were, sort of put him in the doghouse a little bit, and he's worked his way out. He's had some nice moments late in games. So 14 points, 2 threes, 3 boards, 2 assists, 1 steal. It's a garden variety low end line, but if you're in a deeper league, that might be worth a look. And Jaime Jaquez is got injured in the last one, so he might be missing some time. So that might also open up additional minutes for Jovic for his low-end production going forward. In Indy, the story's always going to be Tyrese Halliburton until it's not. He's actually been better the last few weeks, more of a second-round guy. But overall, he's still way behind his ADP, and it's all about the shooting, and it's all about the back injury. He had 16 points, 4 of 13 from the field. Pretty good elsewhere, 13 assists, 2 blocks. So it's there. It's just the back injury and whether he can get the shooting right. And it's still going to be buy low territory. But the question for Tyrese all season long until it's not is going to finish as a second round, third round per game guy. Because if he is, that and the injury risk is going to make it for a probable disappointment season. So we'll see if he can get right on the injury front. Miles Turner, 34 and 9, 2 blocks, 5 threes. He needed a big game, so he can climb back up the ranks. Siakam's been consistent. Benedict Mathurin is probably the most interesting player here from the perspective of he's getting rebounds like crazy. He got another 12 rebounds in last night's game, 21 points, 8 of 8 from the foul line, 2 steals. This is outstanding. It's somewhat unsustainable. I mean, you're going to have guys come back, take those rebounds away from him. The rebounds are really pushing his value up. He's been a mid-round guy. He's shooting, I want to say, like 55% from the field. So, of course, these numbers all got to come back. And I guess the question is he shown enough on the floor to be able to have that staying power when these guys come back? Could he be a top 100 guy for the rest of the season with the team at full health? I think the answer is probably yes, but it's going to be close. And that speaks to the fact that he's not going to keep doing what he's doing right now. But, pardon me, he has shown a lot of promise. He's got the athleticism. He's got the skill. He just needs the opportunity to sort of fly. And then when those numbers come back, if he can stay in a big minute role, he'll be a top 75 guy at some point in time in his career, possibly this season. And he's done his part. He just needs sort of everything around him to figure itself out. Jarris Walker was a nice pickup for those who got him in deeper leagues. He's been putting up about 3 to 4 to 5 cash counting stats per night in a low minute role. He got 16 minutes in the last one, 6.7 boards, 3 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 1 3. That's paying the bills. So if you were able to pick up Jarris Walker and, count on top 150, top 125 value going forward, I think that's a win, because the only thing that can happen is assuming he can keep this consistent, and it's tough in a low minute role, but he's kind of that kind of guy. If he could keep it consistent, you got the low high going on. He can cook at 125, 150. And then if something happens to Miles Turner and they want to keep elevating him up, which they would have to in this situation until they get a backup big or bring in another big in some way, shape, or form, he would have that upside. So you're sitting on a nice low high right there. Nobody else on the squad is of mention today. So we're going to keep it moving. We're getting into the Cleveland Cavaliers, who cannot lose a game. They're 15-0. My fate of their betting line has not kicked in, and I should have listened to the great Dr. A, who said until they got to 15-0, they're just going to keep crushing teams. And that's what they're doing. So we'll get to them in a quick second here. But on the Charlotte side, we do have an official Grant Williams sighting. It has lasted all season. It's late round value. He's probably already been picked up in leagues. I haven't been excited about him. I know a lot of folks haven't been excited about him, but he is getting it done. He got it done this last game in 35 minutes, 15 points, 9 boards, 3 assists, 1 steal, 2 threes. It's been about 2/3 of those lines and about 1/3 of the stinkers that have caused Grant Williams to be faded long term. Brandon Miller was not good shooting, 6 of 20 from the field, but everything else was in a good spot. Miles Bridges, he was good in this one, 19, 8 and 8 with 2 steals, a block, and 4 threes. 7 of 15 shooting. Overall, he has been about a top 80, top 90 guy, so not where he was drafted. So owners were happy to see that one. LaMelo Ball, 31 and 12 with a steal and 5 threes. And he's just cooking. He's doing just fine. Though in 9 cat leagues, I think he's got like 4.5 turnovers per game. And that's made him more of a late second round guy. In 8 cat leagues, he's just crushing right now. So congrats to those folks in 8 cat leagues who were courageous enough to take the plunge. Let's move it on to the other side of the line. I'll give a quick Trey Mann shout. Once he gets right, I want to just see if he can keep a 125 or 150 number going. On the Cleveland side, 23 and 11 for Evan Mobley as he got back on the floor with the illness. Jared Allen, back to big lines, 21-15, 1-1. That's, from a Jared Allen standpoint, you just want to see that he's doing this 2/3 of the time. And then the other third, if they want to be, lower end lines, he'll probably go back to top 30, top 40 value going forward. Darius Garland keeps his foot on the gas with 25 and 12. I could have possibly put Ty Jerome as the lead mention on this one. He got the start for Donovan Mitchell, who was rested in this game. I looked at the schedule and it kind of seems obvious that they should rest him. It looks like, I think it was 4 games and 5 nights for the Cavs, and they're looking big picture, of course, despite the streak. So Ty Jerome, who's just been shooting like lights out, he's over 50% shooting still, 9 of 15 in this one, 24 and 8 with 4 threes. Good enough to have standard league value, regardless of the starting situation in Cleveland. In his 15 to 18 minutes per game, whatever it is, he's been about a top 120 guy this season. Now, yes, we can say he's not going to shoot 55% forever. He might not be consistent with low minutes, but if you took the ride, you got paid, so to speak. So that's been good. Karis LeVert, He had what we called the best setup for a stream in this past week, though he was also rostered in a lot of situations. He wasn't as good this week. Last game, it was 4 points, 4 boards, nothing else. But on the season, he's been a top 60 guy. So Karis LeVert has been getting it done. And if he got dropped, you might just want to take the long view there and just kind of hope that they can keep it going overall. Let's move out of that game and get into Detroit at Washington's Fantasy NBA today, presented by Bet Online. We're on YouTube today. Get on over to Discord as well, so you get your questions answered on some show. I don't know if it'll be today or if it'll be the next show later today. We'll try to do our best at all times to get the questions in, but thank you guys for showing up. Detroit at Washington, 124-104. Detroit 7-8. My Detroit Pistons 7-8. With Kenny Atkinson at 15-0, I don't know if my coach of the year bet for JB Bickerstaff is doing well or not, but it's just kind of funny that it might be down to those two guys. Tobias 12-9, garden variety Tobias line. Jalen Duren's kind of concerning at 18 minutes. No kind of significant foul trouble here that contributed to this low minute total. He did get his 10 boards. He had 11 points. If you're just looking at the big numbers, you might not be concerned, but I just think with the ankles, he's going to be a risk. The production hasn't been there this season. There hasn't been a clear winner behind him, so to speak. Isaiah Stewart, 9-6 with 2 blocks in 25 minutes in this game. I mean, is it kind of okay? It's kind of okay. It's a situation where unless Paul Reed somehow gets loose, I won't be taking it on in fantasy leagues at any point in time. Cade had a big one, triple-double, 21, 10, and 10 with 5 steals and a block. So that pushes him up the ranks closer to where he was drafted, though he's not quite there yet. Jaden Ivey's foul shooting has been very bad this season, and it's pushing his numbers down. So while he gets these big poppy stats, 21-8 with a steal, 4 threes, unless you're dealing with the foul shooting appropriately, that's working against you there. Malik Beasley still getting it done with Tim Hardaway Jr. out, 26-3, 1 and 1 and a 6 with the 3-pointers. I'll let you guys just guess which of those numbers were applicable to. Downstream in the back end of the roster, nobody's really paying the bills for anybody, so we can keep it moving over to Washington, where Alexander Sarr had his first stinker that we've seen in a while, and he's been running fine, so you're not too worried about that. Kyle Kuzma got right with 22 points, 10 of 14 shooting, 6 boards. You're kind of classic, not that exciting Kyle Kuzma line, but at least he's producing again, so he's kind of back into the rotation at full strength. Jordan Poole, just 22 points, 5 assists. He didn't go off in the steals and blocks, but 3 triples in his 27 minutes. This game wasn't very close. Detroit ran away with it in the third quarter. Bub Carrington, 11 points, mostly full stat line. So he's held onto the rope, and that's just great. So I hope he can do that all season long. Bilal falling back a little bit, 15-4 with 3 steals and a 3. Actually represents a little bit of a bounce back over the prior game. As long as he can just get you, 3 to 4 cash counting stats per game, he's going to be fine all season long. It's just a question of where he can finish. Can he have a top 75 finish? I think that's about a 50-50 shot right now in Washington, where he figures to be the last man standing. Keyshawn, oh boy, that was a fun one. Keyshawn George, 0 points, 3 boards, 6 assists, 1 block, 0 of 3 shooting. So we're starting to see that Kyle Kuzma effect start to mess with him. He had dodged it early on, but he's got it going overall this season. So stick with him for a little bit longer, especially given the situation in Washington where he could figure to play a big role down the stretch. Jonas Valanciunas starting to bring those numbers up a little bit more. I think the interest on the trade block and the talk there might have perked everything up there for the guy. A little bit of a slow start on a team he probably doesn't care about too much. Brogdon got back in the mix with 22 minutes. He's just not good anymore, guys. So just don't even factor him in your plans. That's a little harsh way to put it, but it's been that way for a little bit. I think the name value of Malcolm Brogdon kind of tricks people around the league. Heading on into the Denver and Memphis game. Denver loses this one 90-105. No Nikola Jokic in this one, so a little bit of a throwaway game. Not much good production out of guys, but if you want to take the long view for this season, Michael Porter Jr. has been great. Christian Brown's been great. Jamal Murray has slotted in well behind them. So it's really tough sledding for Jamal Murray this season. Nikola Jokic is boat racing everybody this season. He's about, I want to say 50% more valuable than number 2, Victor Wembanyama. It's early. these guys do this. They're statistical beasts. They have the ability to squash entire leagues with their bare hands. It's great to watch which one of these guys is going to vote race the other. And Wemby's just getting started, though. That knee thing, we'll talk about it when we get to them. It's concerning, of course. Dario Saric has actually been good for the last couple of weeks. And, of course, there's a window of opportunity with Aaron Gordon here. I don't know that you can count on this. I think you could easily get on the train when it's about to crash. 10-10 with 2 steals, 2 threes. But it's there if you want it. Nothing else of interest for the rest of that squad. So we moving on to Memphis. Brandon Clark's been starting lately and getting decent minutes. Hasn't really moved into the productive zone, but it's just there, and it's worth noting. 5 and 7 with a steal in 22 minutes. Jaren Jackson Jr., I think if you added Jaren Jackson Jr. in drafts, you're feeling great right now. He has been efficient, 20 points, 7 of 16 shooting. Not his most efficient game overall, but he got you 4 of 4 from the foul line. He got you a steal and 3 blocks. And it's just the shooting lines aren't crooked this season. He's staying in his lane. There are other healthy players. He can do what he does best, which is focus on defense and, not take too many wild and crazy shots. So he's been a 3rd-round guy. Congrats if you got him, because so far you're probably about a round ahead of where you got him, maybe. And also he's not fallen apart on you yet. So that's a win all the way around. Sounds like John Morant is coming back. He tweeted at one of the Memphis Grizzlies beat guys that it would be sooner rather than later. So just know that. You might get an announcement on that here pretty soon. Scottie Pippen Jr. just cruising. He's a do not drop the rest of the season. 10 points, 3 boards, 4 assists, 4 steals, and 2 threes in his 26 minutes, just finding any way possible to get it done in the box score. And in reality basketball, Desmond Bane, 11 points, 11 boards, 7 assists, 1 block. And that is, move my cursor, 1 3. And did that in 29 minutes. So it looks like he's kind of back on track. And that's good for folks who picked up Bane, because that was annoying to get that injury already early in the season. Santi Aldama starting to fall back a little bit. 6 points, 2 steals, 1 block. And he gets this in 20 minutes. And that's not Santi Aldama-ish right now. He's been above the fray. He's been impenetrable, so to speak. He's just sitting there cruising, and then all of a sudden we get this dud line in a weird game, of course, but we have players coming back, and that's not great. We did have Zach Edey get helped off the floor. I probably should have led with that, but like I said, I haven't been able to drink that coffee yet this morning. Zach Edey being out is going to free up about 16, 18, 20 minutes, and that is going to go either Jay Huff's direction. Maybe it goes Brandon Clark's direction. Maybe it frees up Santi Aldama to stay up above 25, 28 minutes per game. Maybe Jake LaRavia gets a little bit of a push. LaRavia, good again. 111, 7 points, 4 assists in 20 minutes. It's been way better than that makes it seem. He's been a good standard league guy, despite all of the chaos, him being a beneficiary of the chaos, I should say. So that if you're using LaRavia, it's hard to say that you are, because, probably a bit of a streamer guy, but he might just keep it going. Who knows? Jay Huff, the interesting Jay Huff, a standard league value in his 16 or so minutes per game this season, just flat out. He gets you the blocks. He gets you the threes. That's a weird stat set if I've ever seen one, to have that much value packed into those 2 categories in such a small amount of time, and he's consistently getting them for you. If he gets more minutes, I mean, you're talking about a lot of upside there. I don't know if he'll get the more minutes, because there's been opportunities for him to sort of expand the minutes. But if Edey's out, and he jumps up to 24 minutes, right now he's been a top 115 guy in 9 cat leagues. If he gets an additional 5 minutes, holy moly, what would we be, like a top 80, top 75? I mean, so Jay Huff is really interesting. And I think people, and I'm done fading Jay Huff. I faded him in like the first week of the Jay Huff experience. I've been on the train ever since then, but it feels like people are just kind of not hip to what Jay Huff is doing out there. We'll see what happens with Edey. And then Vince Williams Jr., he had 5 assists in 14 minutes. He had a 3 points and a triple in his 14 minutes. We'll see how he gets cooking. I think the skill is there. It's just this team has so much going on with it. So we'll see how it all goes. Portland took a sneaker kind of a win over the Atlanta Hawks. They were at home. They won 114-110. It's a really weird game if you were watching. It's just a lot of back and forth. Some really young plays from the Portland Trailblazers. I was surprised they pulled that win out. On the Atlanta Hawks side, though, Jalen Johnson's cruising. He had a 10 of 14 shooting line. He had all the goodies. He had 7 turnovers, 25 points and more. He's been a little bit behind ADP because of the efficiencies, and that's fine. I think they've been banged up, so they're asking him and Dyson Daniels to do more. Now, Dyson Daniels, I was watching that game prior to a meeting, and I was watching Dyson Daniels play, and man, he looks good. 12 points, 8 boards, 4 assists, 2 steal, 1 block. Now, 5 of 17 shooting. So he's not quite, bulletproof on the efficiency side when they're asking him to do more, but he is capable of doing more. And he's been like a top 20 guy this season. And his steals number per game, I've never seen anything like it. I want to say, I know some of the older, more tenured folks around here would probably know this off the top of their head, but I haven't seen a guy that's been up over 3 steals a game, I don't think, since I've been doing this. He's at about 3.6 steals per game. I'm not going to sit here and tell him he can't do it. I mean, maybe he can, but it is very, very high. If there's a moment to sell Dyson Daniels, it is probably right now. You got Bogdan Bogdanovic coming back at presumably any time now. I know he's been with the G League team getting ready there. If he's not back within a week, that'd be a little bit surprising. Yes, he's an injury risk, but that takes the ball out of Dyson Daniels' hands a lot more. And the caveat to that, or the counter to that, is that Dyson can handle it. So maybe it won't be so much Dyson Daniels standing in the corner. Maybe he will get an isolation set here and there. Maybe he will take the ball to the rack and balance things out a little bit. There's still a lot of offensive shots available for this squad. There's, Clint Capella as a non-shooter, Onyeka Okongwu as a non-shooter, Larry Nance as a non-shooter, Garrison Matthews as a shooter, but he doesn't do anything else. There's just a lot of shots available to those that can take them. Zach Risachet, 3 of 6 in this game. It's not like he's demanding the ball. So Dyson Daniels might get those shots, but he's been getting a lot of shots lately. He's been getting a lot of opportunities. So for him to go this good the rest of the way, it would be shocking. But for him to go top 50 the rest of the way, right now, that's even money. And that's not what you paid for him on draft day. I don't even know if people know he's that valuable. So play the sell high game carefully here. But for those that are in a league where there might be a bunch of Dyson Daniels enthusiasts, this might be a good time to see what you could get. On the Portland side, this is a graveyard of fantasy value, except until you get to certain guys. Robert Williams III, 14 and 8 with a steal and a block in his 26 minutes. He's shooting 90% from the field this season, and I don't know what his free throw number is, but I kind of think it's not that bad. So he has been a top 15 guy in his time on the floor. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. That's amazing. And I mean, what are we doing with that? Well, you got to kind of adjust. Is he going to play in back-to-backs this season? Probably not. What's that look like in terms of, okay, how many additional games is he going to miss? And then, of course, we don't know how long this ride can last. I kind of peg him as like a top 80 guy, top 100 maybe, if you want to be safe. Some of the bids were really big. I wish I'd been a little bit more aggressive on some of the bids. I got Robert Williams last week for much cheaper than he went for this week. So that's nice. But if you're trying to evaluate, like, what do I think of this guy going forward? I'd say probably top 75 might be good, because I do think that when he's on the floor, these numbers are coming. And there's no reason for them not to, given the style that Portland's going to play. It's going to be a little helter-skelter all over the floor. It's going to be a lot of turnover action in these games. And then also he's going to be rested for these games, and they're going to want to showcase him. And oh, by the way, DeAndre Ayton's dealing with a finger injury and a deep first bone. I believe it's this bone right here. So I don't know. Most NBA players tweak the fingertips, and the fingers go which way, a deep bone bruise in the finger. I mean, I don't know how long that takes to heal, but it's a great reason to tank. Donovan Clingan, 22 minutes, 6 points, 8 boards, 1 steal, 3 blocks. This guy's a baller, and he's big and he's lengthy. And this might be the most mobile he will be in his entire career. The blocks should be off the chart. The production's fine at this point. With the big games that he's had recently, he's a standard league value on the season. So with that, you can kind of just say, all right, I got a little bit of a ramp with DeAndre Ayton. Now, if Ayton comes back, are they going to take Clingan off the floor? Are they going to take Robert Williams off the floor when these two are arguably, if not outright, outplaying DeAndre Ayton? I don't think so. I think they're going to find a way to play these five guys some combination of like 60 minutes. Maybe 28 for Aiton, and then take the remaining 32 and split it up at 16 and 16 for the two bigs that, you got one guy that doesn't play every other game, and then you got another guy that, they want to develop. And so to me, that's great value for Klingon, and it's great value for Robert Williams the third if you can manage the games off, which you can in a lot of situations, if not most, if not all. Tamani Kamara, 4 steals, 1-3, kind of keeping it going. He's the guy that you want to watch and see if he can slow cook this season and end up with a really nice and high rank at the end. But the rest of it is just like, oh man, Shaden Sharp. It doesn't matter that he got 32 points, 5 assists, 3 steals, 3 threes in this game. He hit 7 of 12 free throws. That's bad. Okay, that's not killing this line. 11 of 21 is great. It's just his overall stat set, his overall value. He and Scoot Henderson just aren't valuable unless you're punting multiple categories or you're taking care of their deficiencies. Overall, they're just not that valuable. Denia Avdia, not that valuable this season. 12 points, 8 boards, 4 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, 2 threes. Great line tonight, but on the year, not that valuable. I'd probably want Delano Banton over both of them, over that group that I just listed. 23 points, 4 boards, 4 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 4 threes for Banton. At least I know with Banton, when he gets on the floor, that he's going to just go off, and the efficiencies might not be there. But, who profiles as a tank player? Well, to me, it's Delano Banton. Sharp, injury risk, Henderson. I just don't know. Like, we've kind of seen Henderson get a full ramp with a full head of steam, and he did have the good April. So that's like the silver lining here. But, he's had a lot of opportunity. It just hasn't happened with Banton. At least I want to see it, see if it can happen. So really weird and interesting team in Portland. Let's move it on to Brooklyn at New York. This is Fantasy NBA Today, presented by Bet Online. How you guys doing out there? I hope you're having a great Monday. We're on YouTube today, not on Twitter, and we're just working with some strategy things as social media crumbles out there. But we'll ride the wave as we always do. It'll be fun. Brooklyn, New York. Brooklyn gets a loss, a little bit of revenge action, so to speak. And, both directions. And New York takes the 114-104 win. New York, 7-6. That game was a little important to them, I bet. Brooklyn at 5-9, starting to fade back a little bit. That hot start isn't too surprising. Dorian Finney-Smith, productive in this one at a low late round level, so that's good. Cam Johnson keeps the foot on the gas, 22, 5-5 with 4 threes. Probably a good time to get those Cam Johnson's offers out there. If I pluralized that, I apologize. Dennis Schroeder starting to fade. Cam Thomas. Actually, this game isn't like the marker for fading, but it's actually probably a pretty good baseline of value to expect. 16 points, 7 of 10 from the foul line. Not really his jam there, but 4 of 11 from the field. Not much elsewhere. He's at about a top 50, 60 level right now. And that's been the concern with Cam Thomas, is just that the overall production isn't there's not enough diversity in his game to produce the value you want. And then if there's any sort of tanking that goes on at the end of the season, then the end result might not be great for Cam Thomas. But after the fast start, he has settled back into more of a mid-round guy, which is worth noting. At the back end of the roster, just sort of watching for Noah Clowney, 17 minutes, 13 points, 2 threes, no steals or blocks. Just still not getting it done, not getting the minutes. Maybe it'll be there for Clowney at some point in time this season. It's just not looking good right now. It's definitely not worth a roster spot. Zaire Williams, not getting it done, so you can move on if you took the ride there. That's it for the Brooklyn Nets. Let's get on into Houston. And Houston's actually really, really started to surge. They're 10-4. They just whomped Chicago in their building. Chicago, maybe that's the big punch to knock them over and into some of the scenarios that we've been thinking might occur this season. So Houston, though, a lot of growth in their fantasy value. Şengün was floating around at like 50 and 60, and now he's up to like 30 with some really big lines. And he's at 20, 11, and 11 with a block, 9 of 15 from the field in this one. His blocks production has been good. His free throw has been predictably middling. The overall production level across all of the different stats has gone up. He's been about a top 7 guy, I want to say, the last 2 weeks. So really big push for Shingun. So kind of congrats all the way around for those who have enjoyed the Shingun push there. Jabari Smith has been going the other direction, but he's probably the only player that you're sort of concerned about. I guess Fred VanVleet, folks aren't feeling great, but he had a 28, 7 and 7 with 2 steals and 3 trays. So it feels like he's on the way back. Jalen Green is sort of fallen back into his predictable, mid to late round value stuff, but that's not a continuance of his early season play. He was really hot to start, and it's sort of fallen back. So no new news there. Tari Eason had his first dud in a while, 18 minutes, 4.6 boards, 1 steal. He's still a top 50, 60 guy in fantasy leagues, so you're definitely not stopping that anytime soon. Amen Thompson had a good one, 16 and 11, 5 assists, 1 block. Just keep it rolling with him. There's no questions there. He's going to be great. Those 2 coming off the bench have been a big reason why this team has had a huge push. They're looking good, man. Houston's looking good. That coach is good. They're just kind of they got a lot of things working for them in their favor, and it's just the defensive equation at center that they'll one day have to overcome when the competition gets real good. Chicago, we're watching for Pat Williams to see if he could keep it going. Finally, he can't. 7 points, not much else. Classic Pat Williams dud, but it's a 40-point loss or whatever. So maybe we don't hold this one against Pat Williams. Maybe we give him one more. He had about 4 or 5 games that were really good. So, it's the Bulls, and they've invested in him a lot. And he's going to keep going, for better or worse, as will we. Vucevic, 9 points, dud. Kobe White, 8 points, dud. Zach LaVine, 15 points, 2 steals and a block, but mostly a dud. Josh Giddey, he's the guy. Giddey's outside of the top 150 despite getting a ton of minutes. And if you're punting like all categories, then I guess it's okay. But the deficiencies are just right across the board, just like everything, the whole thing. And, he's getting targeted on defense. And this is where Josh Giddey's overall value and his overall ability to play has really been the story. He's got a few things he does very well. He's a heady basketball player when he's got the ball in his hands. People fall for this stuff all the time. If you can't defend, if you don't have that sort of overall versatility to your game, it will show up in reality ball and it'll show up in fantasy ball. The Giddey Express just is not going to get off the ground this season. It could get better, but the deficiencies are what they are. So can he be a top 50 guy? Maybe. Can he be a top 60 guy when the going's good? Maybe. Right now he's outside of the top 150. So name value, way better than the production right now. And this team's having their moment. They did the we all have issues, we're all giving up on the floor, and we can't give up on the floor. You can only say that so much before things start to crack. That moment when things start to crack will be some time for somebody like Jalen Smith to possibly step up if they move Nikola Vucevic. That's the thing we've been watching for a while. Not early, of course, but we're watching around midpoint of the season to see if that could be a thing. He had 5 points, 7 boards, and 3 blocks in his 15 minutes. So decent enough. It hasn't been good enough to be a must roster situation, even in leagues where there's 2 centers and centers are sort of at a premium. Not a must roster guy, but there's enough here cooking if he can stay healthy for there to possibly be an upside scenario for him in the future. Let's get out of Chicago. It's an ugly box score. Let's get to Dallas and OKC. Dallas gets the win to move to 7 and 7. Oklahoma City, of course, have a bunch of injuries, so that's holding them back at 11 and 3. They're still awesome, but PJ Washington jumps back on the scene, 27 and 17, 10 and 10 from the foul line. That's good. He's been about a top 100 guy on the season, and that's probably where he will go. He'll have these big games, unless there's some massive injury situation where he gets thrust into way more offense. I think that's where he will hang out. This would probably be a good opportunity if you got Washington to see what you could get for him. Because I think correctly, he's been very good. It's a hard thing. No Luka in this game is a big thing I should have mentioned at the outset, but with Luka Doncic around, it's going to be feast or famine for a lot of these guys. Klay Thompson is actually outside of the 150 right now, 1 of 11 in this game. So up and down for all of these guys. Derek Lively's on the court, a bad stat line, but he's on the court for 26 minutes, so you're fine there. Kyrie, he's cruising. His game off was probably strategically planned. And that's all the way a good situation right now. No complaints about Kyrie Irving. Najee Marshall, 27 minutes, low end stat line. Look to him if they stay injured. Dan Gafford, 11 and 12 with the block. The combo of he and Lively are just doing exactly what they need to be doing right now, and no concerns there. And Gafford, I don't know why people are talking drop with Gafford. He's been just fine. Both of these guys are top 110 guys. If those numbers don't work for you when they're getting them in low minutes, you probably need to get into a little bit bigger of a league. But I guess I shouldn't be too judgy about it. On the Oklahoma City side, we got Jalen Williams popping off. And Jalen Williams is starting to climb the ranks. I believe he's inside the top 10 right now. That's good. 27, 5 and 5 with a steal and a block and 3 threes. Shea, 36 and 8, 2 steals, 2 blocks. This is really working out well for them with no Chet around. We'll see what happens when Hartenstein gets back on the floor, but probably not too much different. They were just so crowded that these two guys really didn't get a chance to, flap their wings and just go. Isaiah Joe has emerged as a standard league guy while these guys are out. Who knows if he can keep it up, but 6 points, 2 threes, a triple one, 2 steal and a block, I should say. It's going to be tough to capture that value, but right now it's been there. Dort, 18 points, 4 threes. The value's been there for him as well. Down roster, still nothing worth chirping about, though I would like to see Dylan Jones somehow have a moment. It's probably not going to happen. He was just a fun preseason guy who gets a lot of things done on the floor, despite having limited overall athleticism. Let's get to Utah and the Clippers yesterday. So you probably didn't know that John Collins is a third-round value this season. It's 13 points, 8 boards, 2 steals. A very nondescript line overall from this one, but John Collins has been getting it done all season. Glad we have a ton of John Collins. So that makes me feel warm and fuzzy. Lauri Markkanen starting to perk up a little bit, 18 and 10, 39 minutes, all good signs. Kyle Filipowski, 13 points, 4 assists, not much else. He's a little bit more athletic than folks give him credit for. He yammed on, was it in Sacramento the other day? I forget who he yammed on, but kind of shut the crowd up a little bit. So that was fun. Colin Sexton is down in the ranks, and it's a little bit of everything for him. He's just nibbling or losing, I should say, value in each category a little bit. So while the going's not good, typically he's a top 75 guy. Maybe that should inform an ad decision. Should he become available? Maybe you want to slide that expectation to top 100 and just call him a late round guy, but have that little piece of upside in case things go well. Keontae George still not getting it done. Days that end in Y. Isaiah Collier has been more productive than it would seem coming off the bench. He had 26 minutes, 8 assists, 2 steals. I'd consider him maybe a late round guy for the rest of the season. There is some risk here. We don't know if he can hold up. We don't know if he'll continue to get minutes. We just don't know. He's a young player. They could do, give him a little bit of leash, bring it back, give him a little bit of leash, bring it back. But if you want to call him a late round guy, you might end up having a player that's getting a lot of minutes for a bad team down the stretch. Keep it moving on the Clippers side. James Harden had a big one. Ivica Zubac, pretty big one. Norm Powell, 19 points. The thing I noticed about Norm is instead of being more like a top 20, 30 value as he started the season, he settled into like top 50, 60, which is more norm than less norm. The Norm Powell experience at its peak usually runs at about top 75. So keep that in mind. I think that's very attainable. But if we get a Kawhi sighting at any point in time and then Norm becomes a top 100 guy and you were seeing him put up early round numbers and you weren't able to move him, you're going to feel a little bit bad. The big part of the holding the most weight there is if we have a Kawhi Leonard sighting. Chris Dunn, productive in the starting lineup. I think you consider him a late round guy until he gets demoted. That's fun. Kevin Porter Jr., while he keeps showing up in the box score, the efficiencies and the lack of overall production are so bad that he's terribly ranked and he's terribly not valuable for what we're seeing. So, probably just pass on that for a variety of reasons. In Milwaukee and Charlotte got a win. Milwaukee's now 4-9. No Damian Lillard with the concussion, so that's part of the rationale here. Giannis, triple-double, which is fine. We don't got to talk about Giannis a lot. We all know what's going on there. Taurean Prince, 23 points, 5 assists, 1 steal, 4 threes. He looks like he'll just be a top, maybe even 100 guy the rest of the season. And that's way better than most folks thought he would be. And if he can string together all the games, he might be one of those guys that you see outside of a lot of drafts not being selected or being selected extraordinarily late that has something of a mid-round season based on all of the things that I just said is really lining up for him that way. So that's good for him. Brooke Lopez, slow night. He's been better lately. Some of his big games have pushed him back up into the middle rounds. This one will drag him back down a bit with 5 points, 3 boards, 1 steal, 1 block, 1 3, but a little bit low level line. Andre Jackson, 14 points, but he's so light across the board statistically that even if he has some big games, I don't think he's turning the page on that aspect of his fantasy stat set anytime soon. We did mention Delon Wright as a possible streamer, possible guy to soak up some of this usage and minutes, and he got 33 minutes in the last one. He did have a good stat line, 7 points, 6 assists, 1 steal, 3 blocks, 1 3. If Damian Lillard is out, maybe they turn to him again and just say, hey, Delon, this is going to be the time of the season that you get your run. And that's always good for his fantasy production. Nothing else of note other than Bobby Portis. No, we'll stop on Portis a second. 21 and 7. So it's a good line for him in his 24 minutes, but it's been bad for him this season. He has really struggled so far. So this signifies maybe we're going to get back to some top 100 Bobby Portis in particular if there are one of the 2 big guns out. But maybe that's the devil in the detail right there, is that with the 2 big guns really pressing as the Bucks are 4 and 9, guys like Bobby Portis have been sort of squashed out of the top 150 equation. On the Charlotte side, I believe we've already covered them, so I won't do it again. Looks like we're into Saturday's games. I didn't even notice that. It's the NBA, Fantasy NBA Today, presented by Bet Online. We're here on YouTube. Check us out here for all of our live shows. Get to Discord, get your questions answered. We have a free section in Discord where we do a bunch of stuff. And then our premium members that are in there, they get a bunch of perks. We'll have some announcements for premium members here in the coming weeks as well. Toronto at Boston. Jakob Poeltl has been awesome this season, 35 and 12 in this one, 16 of 19 from the field. They hung tough, and at 2 and 12, their margin of victory is much better than what 2 and 12 would suggest. They've been in a lot of games. They've lost a lot of close games. So shout out to them. Davion Mitchell, you've got another low line out of him. I don't know that I would even go for that on a streaming basis, but it's there while Emmanuel Quickley's out. RJ Barrett, 10 of 27, 25, 10, and 15 with triple one. 4 of 9 from the foul line. That's a max RJ Barrett line if I've ever seen one. Ochai Agbaji, I believe, Agbaji. I'll get a correction here in a second. 13 points, 6 boards, 3 assists, 1 block, 3 threes. I'm good with it. I mean, people have been dropping him in competitive situations, and I don't know how you do that. He looks good on the floor, and he's giving you mid to late round value no matter what. I'll take that. Grady Dick has been falling back. 9 points, 5 assists. And this is a great defense. So try not to hold this game against him. But the numbers are starting to come back. And whereas he looked like a possible breakout guy, as players get back, it might be the case that Grady Dick's more of a late round guy. And that will be a little bit of a shame because there was a real good opportunity to sell super high when the going was good. And I know that's so hard to do. And it's easy with hindsight to say you should do it. But that's kind of the story right now for Grady Dick. Down roster, nothing cooking for my guy, Jonathan Mobo. I am sad. This is my sad face, but he's actually hitting some of those rookie bumps and bruises. Darko, he was talking about how Mobo, was ruining spacing because he was diving in. And that sounds like a classic rookie thing. And a couple weeks back, when he didn't take the ball and run with it, it was very sad for me. Boston, typically Boston. Tatum's still cooking. That's good for him. This is the stuff that folks wanted him to do last season. He's doing it this season. Kata, 12 and 8 in 33 minutes. I love that part, but the 1 block and the 0 steals really dampens it because we haven't seen the overall pop out of Kata. And with the inconsistency of roles and things like that, perhaps this is where he's been turning the corner here and in terms of getting minutes and opportunity and things like that. I think people are hip to the fact that Kata should probably be the solution, at least until Porzingis gets back. And the overall pop hasn't been there. Derek White's been great. He wasn't that good in this one. Jaylen Brown, 27 points. So he's starting to get back into form. Hauser, 14 points, 1 block, 3 threes, 25 minutes. That's good. The most interesting for me has been Peyton Pritchard, where he is starting to really fall back and not off the map. And by the time I say this, he'll probably hit 7 3-pointers, including 2 heaves by the time this show's over. But 6 points, not much else, 2 threes. He's now at like top 70 level, where he was in the early rounds early in the season, and folks were wondering, was Peyton Pritchard going to soak up all the minutes and the usage from some injured guys ahead of him as Boston rests their players for the playoffs? Well, now the equation isn't quite as tantalizing. It's mid-round stuff with the question of, can he keep it going? And is it going to be top 70? Is it going to be top 100 for Peyton Pritchard? And you're definitely not going to sell while the going's bad. So wait for his next big ones and see if you can maybe possibly turn that into something with a little less risk. Okay, let's get into Saturday's matchup with the Lakers and the Pelicans. We got no backup center whose name I can't remember on air. Anthony Davis, 31-14. Jackson Hayes, that is. Every now and then when you store 500 player names in your head, you just can't remember a few of them. 31-14 and 2 steals and a block with 2 threes for Anthony Davis. Cooking. He's been the winner of the what do you do outside of the top 4 question in fantasy drafts. So congrats so far, though he's a little dinged up. LeBron, 21, 7-5. A little bit of a slowdown for him. Same with Austin Reeves. A little bit of a slowdown. Austin went for 10 and 7, 3 of 15 in this one. No concern for either player at this point in time. Dalton Knecht got his 37 minutes. He went for 27 points, 7 boards, 2 steals, 5 threes. Okay, what are we doing with Dalton Knecht? I think Dalton Knecht, if he can keep this sweet roll that he has right now with D'Angelo Russell playing 21 minutes, 7 and 5 for D'Angelo Russell. Major downer for folks that were hoping for a repeat of last season's almost early round production. Knecht, if he could keep this sweet, cushy situation, I think he's going to get late round value, just with the way that the numbers work in this box score, with the way that his stat set lines up, with the way that who knows what's going to walk in the door, and can he get 30 minutes a game? I think at 30 minutes a game, late round value is definitely attainable. So that takes a little bit of the excitement out of him. Otherwise, pretty exciting player. He can play flat out. He can play. And I think in Lakerland, where everything's sort of amplified, it's going to be even more fun watching. And with these players, I think they're going to actually lean into what Dalton Knecht can do. So I think we're going to get a lot of Dalton Knecht moments. I just wonder about the stat set and it all panning out in the end. All right. I hope you guys are having fun on Monday. I know I am. I didn't sleep much last night, so this is all a fever dream for me. San Antonio at Dallas. So we already talked about Dallas, but let's talk about the Spurs. So we got our first little scare for Victor Wembanyama. He left the game. He came back in, and then he didn't play in this one. So Zach Collins got 26 minutes, 20 points, 6 boards, 1 steal, 3 blocks. 8 of 8 from the foul line. I love pairing Collins with Wemby. If you got that combo going out there, you feel pretty good about certain aspects of the Wemby risk equation. We'll all be watching the news like hawks to see what Wemby does next. Can he play, etc. Talk about that as we go here. Champagny just cruising. It's about down to like 120 now, but he's doing just fine. Devin Vassell did not play in this one, so you're getting that little bit of a ramp up for Vassell, and it's going to be tough sledding for Vassell. If he gets another injury, they're going to be super careful. He's got to kind of run the table here if he can capture that late mid-round magic that folks wanted to get out of him this season, but he missed this last game, which is not a surprise. In the box, very limited run for the starters in this one. Barnes, 24 minutes. Chris Paul, 25 minutes. Castle got 28 minutes. Castle might be a late round value if he can continue to get starters minutes, but I wouldn't put him at much beyond that. And it's the overall inconsistency. It's some stat set issues. I don't want to go too into those. Like I don't want to hit him too hard for stat set issues, because I think what we saw in college was a little bit muted. He's got enough attributes to where I don't think we should mark that into concrete just yet. But Chris Paul's been great. He's winning the ADP battle right now, right around top 75. And it looks like that might be his home for the rest of the season, as long as he's upright. So a clear win so far for the Chris Paul folks out there. I got myself some Chris Paul in at least 1 or 2 spots, 1 spot, 2 spots. I don't know. But every time I see his name in the stat tracker, I get happy. think that's going to do it for the San Antonio Spurs. Let's get over to the Kings. So Utah and Sacramento, the Kings won this game. They struggled to win this game, 121 to 117. My guy Keon's definitely in the doghouse. He's getting frozen out. I dropped him in a couple 200-player leagues. I kept him in a few spots because we got this rock bottom part of the Keon Ellis train ride. Yet he's the Kings' best player by net rating. The eye test matches up with it. When he's on the floor, the Kings are so much better. But he's petrified right now to shoot. And it's Mike Brown kind of holding his feet to the fire now for not shooting. He had these 2 turnovers in this last game where his teammates were just as in on the turnover as he was, but he was the guy that looked bad because the quarterback always looks bad. He threw the pick sixes and, everybody jumped on him and everybody's down on Keon Ellis all of a sudden. But he's going to keep being one of the Kings' best net rating guys because he's flat out great. Like the film still doesn't, if the film was bad, I'd be like, hey, I don't think it's going to happen for Keon, but the film is great. He had a couple bad turnovers. He's petrified to shoot. It's not going to work out in fantasy leagues right now, but the Kings are down players. It sounds like DeMar's coming back sooner rather than later. I don't have a real good read on what's going on with Sabonis. Maybe I can make some phone calls and find out, but that does provide a window of opportunity for both Keon and Kevin Huerter. Huerter's been fine this season. We're getting prior season valuations out of Kevin Huerter. The play has been fine on the floor. There's no like Huerter versus Keon thing going on here. You play them both. You got guys entering the rotation that, maybe shouldn't be, but they are. This is not to say that this is, we should be down on these guys and Keon Ellis isn't playing and down on those guys. I just think it's an organizational decision right now to not play Keon Ellis. And I don't know if there's a strategy here at play where they're trying to get him to do something he's not currently doing. But if they're trying to get him to shoot, they probably shouldn't have yanked his minutes around all first 10 or so games of the season when he had been very good, not just during those minutes, but in the preseason and then also at the tail end of last season. He showed way more than enough to probably, with a guy like that, you want to say, hey, Keon, we're going to play you no matter what, as long as you don't shoot. Or if you're shooting, we'll play you. And make sure all 5 players on the floor are nice and aggressive, because that would be very dangerous, I would think, especially with a team that's got 4 great offensive players on the court at most times. Keegan Murray's slowdown is absolutely part of the kind of the thought process that's maybe not so great in Sacramento right now. He's defending the other team's best players all of the time. He's super tired. That's my theory on why he's not making shots right now. And I believe it's affecting his mental game. One of those turnovers with Keon, he just ran to the wrong spot. Nobody noticed it on the telecast. Nobody noticed it in the, kind of the Twitter sphere. But Keegan he looks exhausted out there, and he's missing wide open 3-pointers. And this is a practically elite shooter. So Keegan's in a slowdown. That bounce back is right around the corner. And De'Aaron Fox is going nuclear without DeMar DeRozan on the floor. DeRozan is good, and he has been good, but that can be true at the same time that the rhythm and the function of the rest of the players on the floor being impacted by a guy taking so many shots, that can also be true as well. So I think you're going to see a little bit of freedom out of the guys while DeMar DeRozan is out. And De'Aaron Fox has been the guy taking advantage of 49 points in that game, coming off of a 60-point game prior to that, and also surging up the rankings, which has been great for our squads as we ranked him inside of the top 10 this season. Okay, guys, I'm going to ask you guys to subscribe to the podcast, download, listen to the show, give us the thumbs up if you don't mind, 5-star ratings, all that stuff. I don't ask for that stuff very often. I hate this aspect of social media where that's just got to be the tip of the spear, for folks. It's this unsavory part that we kind of hope to change with things we do here at Sports Ethos. But if you guys could do that, it would obviously help us out. So thank you very much for that. Let's see. We only have a few more games to cover here, and we'll get out and we'll take a quick break, and I'll be back for the second show here today. Memphis at Golden State. So this one was, we're not covering the Memphis side in this one, but on the Golden State side, we have some really interesting developments in that DeAnthony Melton's shot back into the scene like a rocket, and then he's hurt again with a ACL sprain. And I think this is really bad news for him. I think this might keep him out of action for a very long time and or hinder him to the extent that he is no longer sort of the viable option he once was. Now, they chose to start Lindy Waters the third, and he got hurt as well. I'm curious what they're going to do with Buddy Hield in terms of playing him with the starters. Now, Hield had 18 points, 4 boards, 2 assists, 4 threes in 30 minutes. Okay, that's good. We'll take it. If Buddy Hield does this all season, he'll be kind of a top 75 guy, and that's good and fine. Maybe even a top 60 guy in a 30-minute bench role. Well, if he gets 30 minutes in a bench role, it'll probably be a top 50 guy. But he was a top 20 guy early on, and he wasn't going to do that all season. But if he can play with these starters, if he can play with Draymond Green and Steph, whipping the ball around, and defense is keying in on Steph and Hield getting basically the benefits of all of that, that's when it gets supercharged. I think there's still space to buy low on Buddy Hield. Brandon Pajemski, 11.7 boards, 5 assists, 1 steal, 1 3. I had bailed on Brandon, and I have no problem bailing on Brandon. I think that his baseline's around top 100, and that's if things go well. A lot of that incorporated a lot of the preseason hype, and I didn't go overboard with that, but you had to respect it, and top 100 is certainly valuable. It's nothing to sneeze at. But if things slide for him at all, it goes down to top 150 real quick. It could get worse than that, as it has been this season. So, but Pajemski gets the same kind of a jump that Hield's going to get, in the sense that if you have Melton in there playing with those starters, that's minutes that the good passers aren't going to be playing with the guys that can benefit from those good passes. So Buddy Hield, Brandon Pajemski, they have additional opportunity. It's obvious in the sense that Melton's not there and somebody's got to step up. But I think that who they're playing with, part of the equation, if they can stay away from playing with Jonathan Kuminga, 8 points, 4 boards, 2 assists, nothing else in this game on a 3 of 13 shooting line. I got Kuminga as a late round guy this season, and maybe he just plays a lot of games and he can just be more valuable than that. But that Kuminga equation, I think whoever's playing with him is sort of losing out. And I'd be interested to see some statistical analysis on that. Okay, one last game. We got both sides to talk about, where we get Philly at Orlando. Of course, Joel Embiid is doubtful for tonight's game due to an illness. I opened with that and didn't even mention it afterwards. It's an illness. It's going around. I'm sick right now. I didn't sleep last night. Kiddo yakking, coughing in my ear. Deep sigh. But Philly, we're in about a week or two, we're going to have everybody healthy, maybe. And we can really start to see what this team is going to be all about. Jared McCain might be the biggest question. He's been just rocking and rolling. 31 minutes in the last one, 29 points, 4 assists, 5 threes. I had to kind of do a evaluation of him and figure out where he would be for fab bids, things like that. And he's got a lot of minutes this season and, hovering around 75, 80, 85 with some great shooting numbers. I think it's going to be hard for him to, on a per game basis, be on the right side of the top 100 number. So can he keep it at 125? Probably. I kind of think he might do that. I think he might keep it at like 125 or 140, but right around 125 on a per game basis, maybe just for the rest of the season. Players will move in and out. You got back-to-backs with Embiid. Paul George isn't a spring chicken. He's getting hurt all the time. Hell, Tyrese Maxey can't stay on the floor. McCain could wiggle his way through here and give you top 75 the rest of the way. And that's accounting for if McCain gets a clear path and he gets 31 minutes a game somehow. These shooting numbers are coming back, I think. I think teams are generally surprised by what he can do. He's going to rise up the scouting report. So I think 125, if you want to just value him as that and set it and forget it the rest of the season, that might be the easiest way to do the analysis here, as far as looking at, should I get rid of him? Should I try to go get him? Things like that. He should certainly be on rosters the rest of the way. He's that good. Congrats to the Philadelphia 76ers for finding him, and congrats for McCain for working as hard as he has to get there. Paul George, 13, 4, and 5 with 4 steals. The efficiency's still not there, but he's on the floor, so you'll take it. Caleb Martin, 33 minutes. No production in the last one, but he is playing against Miami in this next game, so maybe he has a revenge game in him. Kyle Lowry, 28 minutes and no production other than 3 steals, and that's the elephant in the room for Philly. They got to get Kyle Lowry off the floor. I don't want to talk about them anymore. Orlando, Franz Wagner, really getting it done. 31, 11, and 6 with 2 steals and a block, 5 threes. And he's been playing above his ADP. Yes, Paolo's not there, but you know what? Hey, you take what the defense gives you, and it's your job to perform. And Franz has done that, and it wasn't looking so good early on. So congrats to him. Goga, 1 steal, 2 blocks, 27 minutes. The rest of the line was crap, 5 turnovers even. But on the season now, he's been just fine as a late round guy, and that's okay. Like you can live with that because you're using him because Wendell Carter Jr. is out. And as long as you can get late round value out of him, you're kind of getting what you're paying for here. Mo Wagner, 14-4 and a steal and a 3 of 4 from the foul line. So you're getting what you're paying for there. You classify both these dudes as late round guys while Wendell Carter Jr. is out. And who knows, maybe something will happen and they can keep playing for the rest of the season because Wendell Carter Jr.'s got some iffiness in that foot. But that's aside from Jalen Suggs' recent slide, almost glazed over that. He had a good one in this last one. It was 19, 7, and 3, and then a triple 1. But the 6 of 16 shooting has been a trend for him. And he's taken a lot of shots, and he's really falling back in the ranks as a result of the inefficient shooting. He's been a top 150 guy over the last 2 weeks. And that is sort of old Suggs territory. And I think there's a corresponding bounce back here. But if we're trying to determine, is Jalen Suggs a breakout guy? Is he a top 50 guy? I don't think that's happening this season, just based on the fact that he wasn't able to really even it out here. You want less ups and downs. You're going to have Paolo come back at some point in time here fairly soon. And that's going to make him, I think, more of a 75 to possibly even 100 guy. I don't think it'll be 100. I think it'll be 75, but who knows? We'll see. And then you got a little bit of injury risk from past seasons. So Jalen Suggs, a guy I'm rooting for, but I don't know. This last week was a little bit of a buzzkill. Okay, it's time to wrap up. We're going to stay on live for YouTube for a few extra minutes, answering some live questions. So join us on YouTube for these live shows so you can see these Q&As. Subscribe and listen on to the podcast on all of our favorite platforms out there. Thank you guys so much for doing that. I'm going to wrap up the show and we'll do the questions afterwards. This has been Fantasy NBA Today, presented by Bet Online. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, be well. All right, Q&A time. You can let the hair down, so to speak, and just have some fun. Smoking Joe, my Jared Allen, and BBJ. BBJ. I'm going to need some help with that. The hell's BBJ? For his pool or side, Brandon Boston Jr. Thank you. Thank you. Brandon Boston Jr., top 60 over the last couple of weeks here, just getting tons of minutes, tons of opportunities. Our own Rick Kamla was all over that one because he's got a few sources in New Orleans. My Jared Allen and Brandon Boston Jr. for his pool or Siakam. Let's go. I heart in the IR. My Jared Allen and or Poole, because I'm looking at Brandon Boston, and yeah, there's a way he can have a path here to get out of this thing with some value, but there's a lot of reasons that it might not work. So it's really looking at Jared Allen, and do you want to split Jared Allen for the chance to get one of those two guys? I think with Poole, at least I'm thinking about it, but I think Jared Allen is locked and loaded, ready to go. And yeah, you got iHeart in your IR, but I mean, in terms of pure value, I like Jared Allen, I think, over Jordan Poole. And Siakam, I think, is going to be a top 40, 50 guy. And maybe that's a little safer than Jared Allen. I just think that he slides a little bit, whereas with Poole and Allen, I think they've got top 30 potential, and Siakam doesn't. So I'm going to tell you to keep Jared Allen here. Thoughts on Claxton from JR. That is, thoughts on Claxton rest of season for head-to-head 9-cat 10 team. Claxton rest of season in that format. Somebody just dropped him, and I'm in need of blocks and could stand the free throw hit. And he is bound to be back to a mid-round producer unless his back is problematic and would be potentially shut down later in the year. Well, I mean, you're thinking the right way. In this format with 10 teams, and especially a 9-cat where Claxton can be really good, maybe. That's a big maybe, depending on how ugly things get in Boston. But you're thinking the right way because you need to reach up. You need guys on your team that can reach up and get mid-round value. Otherwise, you're just sort of churning the waiver wire. I think on a per-game basis, I would rate him at about 75. And that's bad because I think the thought process with him is that he'd be more of a top 40, 50 guy, and maybe even some upside beyond that because they're talking about using him more and all of that. But it has been really bad for him early on, and if he's not healthy, that makes him a prime candidate for shutdown. But if the numbers come back, I think that they come back to top 75. So I mean, they could have some good news, and he could actually do better than that. But I think with your evaluation at 75, but that's still in your situation makes him addable. So it just depends on who the drop is, but I would definitely say he's definitely somebody you could add. Rascal Rue, Vince Williams Jr. or Robert Williams the third, 12-team 9-cat dynasty. With the dynasty made it interesting at the end because to me it's Time Lord this season. Yes, no matter what. I mean, Time Lord he strikes me as somebody where they could maybe go, all right, we will let you play back to backs. If he's out there putting up crazy numbers and they want to move him, and then the player's like, I want to play because I also want to be marketable. Man, I mean, you're looking at a top 40, 50 guy. It's going to be very, very risky, and it's going to be very tenuous. Whereas Vince, I love the talent. He's just going to have to claw and claw and claw this season. Dynasty wise, I do think Vince Williams probably projects something of like a top 75 value if things are going well the rest of the way. And then something else has to happen for him to be better than that. And that I would say, because he's also got some risk, I would say just roll the dice on Time Lord and see how it goes. You might have another week or two to pick up Vince Williams Jr. as well, or make a deal for him before he blows up. If he blows up, if he gets productive. And if he gets productive, it might be in like the 125 range. So I think the hype machine will be pretty quiet for Vince Williams Jr. So go ahead and take Robert Williams while you can now. Clay or Malcolm? Is that Brogdon? It'll be Clay. Yeah, it'll be Clay. Ouchie asks, and this will be our last question here today because we got to run. 12-team, 9-cat head-to-head. Jimmy Butler and Cam Thomas or Tyrese Halliburton. Okay, so Jimmy Butler's currently running about like a 130, 140. Halliburton's running about like 50, 60. And Halliburton, if he slides and his new per game is like second or third round, that's kind of where he will be. Butler should, if he's healthy, be a top 40 guy. So you're really just looking, can I add a top 40 guy and then a Cam Thomas who might be a top 75 guy, maybe even a top 85, 100 guy when things start to get real ugly and head-to-head for him. It could even go further south, but let's just be a little bit less catastrophic with it and say Cam Thomas will go 100, 75 to 100. So you're talking about a risky 40 and also risky due to tanking 75 to 100. And then Tyrese probably going to play for the rest of the season as long as injuries don't hit him hard. I'd just go Tyrese here. It's not feeling good, right? And Jimmy could easily at top 25 outproduce, Tyrese if Tyrese in 9-cat especially starts to slide. But Jimmy's got all that risk. I know I went in on Jimmy big this season. I got him in the 4th round everywhere. That said, that risk is the risk meter for Jimmy is bigger than the risk meter for Tyrese. And that's almost splitting hairs a little bit. But Tyrese, especially if you were punting turnovers like a lot of people are, Tyrese gets a significant bump against Jimmy in that head-to-head matchup. I think it feels terrible right now. But Tyrese at top 12 value can really shatter this equation for you if he can get back to the good stuff. And typically in the higher echelons of competition, Halliburton's lower turnovers, and that's say because it's a little, I don't know if that's even the case anymore, but compared to some of the big turnover guys at that level, he can get real good in 9-cat as well. Okay, we're out of here, guys. Thank you so much for your support. Please do all that social media liking and subscribing and all that good stuff. We do appreciate all of that. We will be back in a little bit here for our second live show. Join us on Discord. Hit that link. We'll see you guys in a few.